How many times have you stopped yourself from doing or saying something because you were afraid of what others might think? Or how many times have you hidden parts of yourself to fit in, whether in a social group, at work, or even in a family setting? The fear of being judged, of not being accepted for who we truly are, shapes much of our behavior and decisions. It's a fear that many of us carry around every day, whether we realize it or not. We constantly adjust our actions, words, and even beliefs to fit into what we think is expected of us. But here's the problem. This fear can trap us in a cycle of self-doubt and disconnection from our authentic selves. We start living a life that's not truly ours, hiding parts of who we are just to gain approval. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow speaks to this directly. The parts of ourselves that we suppress or deny because they don't fit the mold of what society deems acceptable. These hidden aspects of ourselves, while repressed, don't disappear. They often create internal conflict, manifesting as anxiety or feelings of unfulfillment. The more we try to conform, the more we distance ourselves from who we truly are. This isn't just a philosophical concept. Research backs it up. In Solomon Asch's conformity experiments, he demonstrated that humans have an innate need to fit in with the group, often sacrificing their own beliefs or authenticity to do so. When we feel that we must conform to societal norms, the fear of judgment triggers anxiety, leading us to suppress our true selves even more. But why do we hide? Why do we suppress parts of ourselves to please others? At the core of this suppression is self-doubt, which often feels like an invisible weight. Self-doubt is driven by a deep fear of judgment, the fear that if we show our true selves, we won't be accepted or loved. This fear doesn't develop overnight. It's shaped over time by our early childhood experiences and the cultural environment we grow up in. From the moment we're born, we are introduced to societal norms and expectations that influence how we see ourselves and the world around us. In our formative years, we begin to develop a sense of self based on the reactions and approval of those around us, especially our caregivers, teachers, and peers. The foundation for self-worth is laid here. When we receive love and validation by conforming to these external standards, we start to link our sense of worth to meeting those expectations. But when we fall short, particularly in childhood, it can lead to feelings of shame and unworthiness. Brené Brown, a renowned researcher on shame and vulnerability, explores this in her book, Daring Greatly. She argues that shame is one of the key drivers of self-doubt, and that we often avoid vulnerability because we fear exposing ourselves to judgment. Brown highlights that vulnerability, the willingness to be seen as we truly are, is a source of strength, but it's also one of the scariest things we can do. When we suppress vulnerability to avoid feeling shame, we inadvertently reinforce self-doubt, as we are not allowing ourselves to be fully seen and accepted for who we truly are. The psychological framework for self-doubt can also be understood through the lens of developmental psychology. Erik Erikson, a pioneer in this field, proposed that our sense of self is shaped through 8 stages of psychosocial development. In the early stages, particularly during childhood, our ability to trust ourselves and others is heavily influenced by our interactions with caregivers and the broader environment. If we experience consistent validation and support, we develop a sense of confidence and self-assurance. But if we are met with criticism or neglect, the seeds of self-doubt can take root. Over time, this can lead to a fear of judgment and a reluctance to express our authentic selves. So, if these fears are embedded so deeply within us, how do we start to heal from them? The key is vulnerability. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it's the courage to show up exactly as we are, imperfections, flaws, and all. It's the willingness to be seen, even when we're not sure we'll be accepted. As Brené Brown puts it, vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But it is also the birthplace of courage and authenticity. It's the first step in allowing ourselves to be truly known, both by others and ourselves. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to deeper connection and self-acceptance. But vulnerability alone isn't enough. Emotional intelligence, our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions, also plays a key role in this process. When we develop emotional intelligence, we're better equipped to handle the discomfort that comes with vulnerability. We can navigate our feelings without letting them control us, allowing us to show up authentically without fear of judgment. Emotional intelligence helps us to remain grounded when we open up to others, fostering more meaningful connections and promoting a healthier, more resilient self-image. This connection between vulnerability and emotional intelligence is crucial. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with emotional awareness, we can embrace our flaws and imperfections with kindness rather than shame. This shift is empowering. It's in these moments of exposure that we find our strength, and the results speak for themselves. Dr. Martin Seligman, a pioneer in positive psychology, has found that embracing vulnerability leads to higher levels of resilience, emotional well-being, and overall life satisfaction. Vulnerability is not something to avoid, it's something to lean into, knowing that it can lead us toward greater emotional health and authenticity. Reflect for a moment. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be vulnerable? Perhaps it was admitting something you had been hiding, sharing your feelings with someone you trusted, or expressing your fears. How did it feel? Did you feel more connected to others? Did it allow you to show up more authentically? Vulnerability doesn't always come easily, but the more we practice it, the more we realize how freeing it can be. And it's in these moments of raw honesty that we begin to reconnect with our true selves. But it's not just about vulnerability. We also need to focus on acceptance, accepting ourselves as we are. Self-acceptance is the foundation of living authentically. It begins with the radical notion that we don't need to be perfect to be valuable. Too often, we tie our worth to an idealized version of ourselves, one that's flawless, always improving, and never vulnerable. We obsess over meeting societal standards, whether it's the perfect career, body, or relationships. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion. The constant pursuit of perfection only leads to dissatisfaction because it's impossible to achieve. Instead, self-acceptance calls us to embrace who we are, flaws and all. In today's world, the pressure to present a perfect life is amplified by social media. Platforms like Instagram or Facebook are often curated to show only the best parts of people's lives, leading many to compare themselves unfavorably to others. This curated version of reality distorts our sense of self-worth, making us believe that we're falling short of some ideal. The constant exposure to others' seemingly perfect lives can exacerbate feelings of inadequacy, making it even harder to accept ourselves as we are. But the truth is, these online images don't reflect the full picture. Real life is messy, imperfect, and beautiful precisely because of its imperfections. Carl Rogers, the humanist psychologist, famously said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." This quote reveals a profound truth. Only by accepting ourselves fully can we truly grow. Self-acceptance isn't about complacency or stopping growth. It's about freeing ourselves from the constant pressure to conform to others' expectations. When we accept ourselves as we are, we can begin making decisions based on our authentic self, not on a mold designed by someone else. Research supports this approach. Studies on neuroplasticity, such as those by Dr. Norman Doidge, show that self-compassion and self-acceptance can actually rewire our brains for greater emotional health and resilience. Accepting our flaws, rather than hiding them or constantly trying to change, makes us stronger and more capable of handling life's challenges. This emotional resilience is crucial when we face adversity. It empowers us to stay grounded in our authentic selves, even when life feels overwhelming. But self-acceptance isn't the end goal. It's the first step toward a life of true freedom. The real liberation comes when we start living authentically, aligning our actions with our values, and shedding the societal expectations that hold us back. Friedrich Nietzsche famously argued that happiness comes from becoming who you are, and that true freedom lies in embracing our individuality. To live authentically means stepping into our own truth, even when it challenges the norms and expectations imposed upon us. Living authentically is not about escaping difficulty. It's about the courage to stay true to ourselves, even when it feels hard or when others criticize us for not fitting in. The more we align with our values, the more we unlock a life that feels purposeful and fulfilling. This is supported by self-determination theory from psychologists Richard Ryan and Edward Deci, which shows that individuals who make decisions based on their intrinsic values, rather than external pressures, experience greater life satisfaction and emotional well-being. When we live authentically, we feel a deeper sense of meaning because we are rooted in who we truly are, not in external validation. So, how can you start living more authentically? Begin by reflecting on areas of your life where you're not being true to yourself. Think about the times when you've compromised your own desires to meet others' expectations. What would it look like if you made decisions based on your authentic self, not societal norms? Taking small, consistent steps toward authenticity in your everyday choices can profoundly impact your overall sense of freedom, happiness, and fulfillment. Living authentically is liberating, but it's not without its challenges. As you take control of your narrative, you will inevitably face resistance and adversity. Stepping into your true self often puts you at odds with societal expectations, and this can trigger doubt or criticism. It's during these moments that resilience becomes crucial. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back from setbacks. It's the ability to stay true to yourself and your values, even when external pressures push you in a different direction. It's the strength to continue down your path when others try to pull you off it, and to remain authentic in the face of adversity. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and renowned psychiatrist, famously said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Frankl's perspective reminds us that, while we cannot always control the external circumstances we face, we do have control over how we respond to them. Living authentically often requires that we face challenges head-on, but how we choose to respond to those challenges can either strengthen or weaken our ability to remain true to ourselves. Research in psychology, particularly Carol Dweck's work on the growth mindset, shows that individuals who embrace challenges as opportunities for growth are more resilient and able to maintain their authenticity, even in difficult situations. When we view adversity as a chance to learn and evolve, rather than something that limits us, we build mental and emotional strength. This mindset helps us stay true to our values and push through the discomfort that may come with expressing our authentic selves. So, how can we build this resilience? One way is by practicing self-compassion. Being kind to ourselves when we make mistakes or face setbacks allows us to recover and continue moving forward without losing sight of our authenticity. Reframing challenges as opportunities for growth can also help us maintain our focus on the bigger picture, reminding us that every obstacle is a stepping stone toward a more authentic life. Surrounding ourselves with supportive, like-minded individuals who encourage our authentic selves can also play a pivotal role in strengthening our resilience. These people help us stay grounded and remind us of the value of living true to ourselves, even when external pressures are strong. As we continue exploring the path of embracing our true selves, it's important to remember that living authentically isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. Resilience, vulnerability, and self-acceptance are the pillars that allow us to face life's challenges while staying true to who we are. It's not about living without fear or adversity. It's about having the courage to remain authentic despite those challenges. And as you build that resilience, lean into your support system, practice self-compassion, and most importantly, embrace your imperfections. They are part of your power. True freedom comes from being unapologetically yourself. When we stop worrying about judgment and start trusting our own worth, we open up to a life that is more fulfilling, meaningful, and aligned with who we truly are. So, take a moment to reflect on how you can incorporate authenticity and vulnerability into your life. And know that with every step you take toward embracing your true self, you are creating a life that is uniquely yours. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to think about this. What is one step you'll take today to embrace your true self? Drop the phrase, "I am enough as I am" in the comments below to share your commitment to authenticity. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more insights about living a fulfilled and authentic life. Let's continue to grow and live true to ourselves together.